You know, some of us actually work for a living, Damien muttered, flicking his cigarette out the back door like he owned the place. Must be nice, freeloading off whatever tech bubble you're riding. I stood in the kitchen doorway, coffee cup in hand, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. My parents didn't say a word. Mom sat stiff on the worn couch, pretending to scroll through her phone, while Dad flipped through the newspaper like it was still 1995. The smell of burnt eggs clung to the air. Damien had overcooked breakfast again. Still, everyone acted like nothing was wrong. Freeloader, in my own house. The house I'd saved for 10 years to buy. The house I put in a good school district so my son could walk to class safely. The house Damien had been crashing in for 6 weeks without paying a dime in rent. And yet, somehow, I was the freeloader. I didn't respond. I just set the cup down on the counter slower than necessary. Luca was upstairs, still asleep, thank God. He didn't need to hear this. Not today. Damien smirked like he'd won something. He was still in the oversized hoodie he wore every day, the one with the sleeves half chewed at the cuffs. I mean, really, he went on who buys a 4-bedroom house for just them and their kid. Little overkill. Don't you think I looked at him then? Not with anger. He wasn't worth that. Just a long, tired look, the kind that says, I see exactly who you are, and I'm done pretending I don't. You need anything else? I asked my mother. My voice was level. She shook her head, not meeting my eyes. My dad made a vague grunting sound, probably meant to mean no, but it felt like cowardice, wrapped in nostalgia. All right, I said. I'll be back tonight. I have work. I walked out before anyone said another word, grabbed my keys, and pulled the door closed behind me. The air outside was cold, sharper than usual. I stood on the porch for a second, staring out at the lawn I mowed last Sunday, while Damien sat on the couch playing Call of Duty. I took a breath. If they wanted me to be the villain, fine. But they were about to find out exactly what that looked like. My family didn't scream or slam doors. That would have at least made things clear. No, we specialized in quiet erasure decisions made behind closed doors. Conversations changed mid-sentence truths, swallowed until they choked. Growing up, I was the easy one, the good kid, the one who didn't need checking on, didn't make waves. Damien. He was the spark, the charmer, the one with moods, talent, potential. Every time he screwed up, it was framed as brilliance misunderstood. I kept my head down and did the work. Honor roll, part-time job at the hardware store, SAT prep in the evenings. I got into Georgia Tech, full acceptance, not just waitlist, and I still remember the weight of the envelope in my hands. For a moment, it felt like I'd been seen. I told my parents that night at dinner. Mom was chopping carrots, Dad flipping through some game on TV. I stood there, letter in hand, waiting for them to look up. They didn't. Not really. Wow, Dad said finally. That's impressive. I'll need to submit the deposit by May, first, I added. Housing, too. That's when Mom set the knife down. Jonas, we need to talk about that. I knew right then. I knew before she even said it. Damien's been accepted into the Selborne Institute in New York, she said. It's an incredible opportunity. And, well, we thought he'd need the support more. I stared at her. You used my college fund. It's not like that, she said quickly. You're smart. You can get scholarships, loans even, and Damien can't. Jonas, Dad chimed in, finally turning off the TV. This isn't about who's better. It's about what's fair. Damien's future, his path, it's different. Different. That was the word they always used. Different meant more important. Different meant not you. I packed up 2 nights later. Didn't cry, didn't yell. I took the $312 I had in savings, threw my clothes in a duffel, and left a note on the counter. I drove out of Norfolk in my beat-up Corolla with no plan, just a scratchy list of community colleges in Virginia and the number of a friend who said I could crash on his couch in Richmond. That first week I slept in the car once, didn't eat for 2 days, and got a job cleaning offices at night. But it was mine, every dirty floor, every ache in my back. Mine. And no one from home called, not even once. Not when I changed my number, not when I started school again, not even when I became a father. I didn't have much of a blueprint. Just long nights and longer shifts. During the day, I'd nap on a borrowed air mattress in a shared apartment. At night, I manned the front desk of a corporate office downtown, watching security feeds and studying between patrols. My world was fluorescent lighting, vending machine dinners, and Wi-Fi strong enough to stream online lectures. I scraped my way through a cybersecurity certificate and landed my first real job doing low-level threat monitoring for a logistics firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid more than I'd ever seen in one check. For the first time, I didn't have to choose between gas or groceries. I met Lena at a training conference in D.C. She was bright, fast-talking, the kind of person who filled up a room without trying. I was cautious. She wasn't. Maybe that's why it worked for a while. Luca was born less than 2 years later. His arrival split something wide open in me. Suddenly, every tired morning, every double shift had a name, a face, a reason. When Lena left, said she needed space, then moved 3 states away, I didn't fight. She loved our son, but not the life that came with raising him. I got the custody papers in the mail, signed without comment, and built our little world around bedtime stories, Legos, and morning pancakes. I saved every bonus, drove the same dented car for 6 years, and kept our life steady. Last year, I finally bought the house. 4 bedrooms, modest yard, good schools, no granite countertops or fancy open floor plan, just quiet space and safety. For me and Luca, that was enough. I'd built something solid, clean, honest, every piece earned, every wall mine. Which made it all the more surreal when Damien showed up again, broke dramatic, full of excuses. 1 emergency became 2, then 6 weeks passed, and he was still there, stretched across my couch, asking if I had oat milk. The day our mother called, everything tilted again. Not because I cared what she had to say, but because for the first time in 15 years, she needed something. It was a Thursday morning, 10:30, and I was wrapping up a client call when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it ring out, but something told me to pick up. "Jonas," the voice said, brittle and breathless. "It's your mother." It took a second for my mind to catch up. 15 years, not a word, not a text, not even a forwarded holiday email. My mother's voice sounded older, tighter, smaller, but still carried that undertone of expectation, like I owed her attention by default. "Your father's had a heart attack," she said. "They think he'll pull through, but it was serious." I didn't say anything. "And the house? It's in foreclosure. The bank's moving fast. 2 weeks, maybe less." There it was. The real reason she called. "I'm sorry to hear about Dad," I said finally. "But I don't see how that involves me." "We're in trouble, Jonas," she said, voice cracking. "Can you come home, please?" I told her I'd think about it, hung up, and stared out the window for a long time. Luca was at school. The house was quiet, and everything in me knew I should walk away. But I didn't. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the part of me that still wanted them to see what I'd become. Maybe it was just unfinished business. I told Luca we were taking a short trip. He was excited. He didn't know his grandparents existed. That hit harder than I expected. We drove to Norfolk the next morning. The neighborhood hadn't changed much, but the house looked smaller, worn down. The porch sagged and the shutters were hanging crooked. It didn't feel like the place I grew up. It felt like a place that had forgotten me. My mother opened the door before I knocked. Her eyes widened when she saw Luca. "You have a child," she whispered. "His name's Luca," I said. "He's 10. He loves dinosaurs and chess." My father appeared behind her, pale and slow on a cane. He didn't speak, just stared at us like we were ghosts. We stepped inside, and the air felt dense with history. Faded photos on the wall, stale carpet, and silence thick enough to choke on. Damien was in the living room, sprawled on the couch, like nothing had changed. The conversation didn't happen right away. First came the small talk, the forced warmth, the "how have you been," as that meant nothing. My mother tried to serve coffee like this was just another visit, like we hadn't lived on different planets for a decade and a half. My father sat mostly silent, his cane resting against the arm of the chair, his eyes darting between me and Luca like he didn't know what to make of either of us. It was Damien who finally cut through it. "Let's not waste time," he said, leaning forward, arms spread across his knees. "We need help, and you've got money now. Everyone knows it." I stared at him for a beat. The same smug tilt to his mouth, the same condescension he used when we were teenagers. Only this time I didn't flinch. "I talked to a lawyer," I said. "Here's what I'm offering." I laid it out simply. I'd pay the $200,000 owed on the mortgage. In return, the deed would be transferred to my name. My parents could stay rent-free, but only under one condition: they'd repay the full amount within 5 years. If they couldn't, the house would remain mine. No renegotiation, no loopholes. Silence settled in like smoke. My mother blinked, her hands trembling slightly around her coffee cup. That's very generous." "It's not charity," I said. "It's a business arrangement." My father nodded slowly, like he understood exactly what I was saying. Damien laughed. "You're going to make Mom and Dad tenants in their own house? That's cold, man. No colder than watching your brother sleep in his car at 19 while you unpacked in a Manhattan loft," I said. He stood up, jaw clenched, but didn't say a word. "I'll have the papers drawn up tomorrow," I said, rising to leave. "You have 3 days to accept. After that, I walk." I didn't wait for an answer. I took Luca's hand, nodded once to my parents, and stepped outside into the fading light. It was strange walking out of that house no longer as the forgotten son, but as the one holding the future in his hands, and I had every intention of using it. I showed up without warning 2 weeks later. Not to play watchdog, at least that's what I told myself, but to make sure my parents were taking the agreement seriously. I'd gotten the signed paperwork back, but signatures meant nothing if the intent behind them was hollow. The front door was unlocked. That was my first clue. The second was the smell, sharp, unmistakable, and lazy. Weed, thick in the air, clinging to the curtains and couch cushions. I stepped inside and heard laughter from the kitchen. My mother was at the stove, pretending not to notice the haze. My father sat at the table staring into a chipped mug like it held answers. And leaning against the counter like he belonged, there was someone I didn't recognize, long hair, tied-back tattoos crawling up both arms, and a vape pen balanced between 2 fingers. "This is Troy," Damien said as I walked in. He was sprawled on a bar stool, shirtless under an unzipped hoodie. "My boyfriend." Troy gave me a slow, deliberate once-over. "So you're the tech guy," he said, voice slick. "Was expecting someone taller." I ignored him. Didn't realize this was a shared arrangement. My mother turned, startled. "Jonas, we didn't know you were coming." "I didn't come for an explanation," I said. "Just checking in." Troy took a drag from the pen and blew a cloud toward the ceiling. "You always just show up like this. Feels a little controlling." I looked at Damien. "He living here." Damien shrugged. "Just till they find a new place. It's temporary." I stared at him, then at Troy, then back to my mother. Temporary doesn't include smoking inside a house I now legally own, or disrespecting the space, or bringing strangers into it without my knowledge. Troy smirked. "You sound like a landlord. That what you want to be now, slumlord with a superiority complex?" I stepped closer. "Say what you want about me, but don't ever speak about my son, and don't ever think this place is yours." He held up his hands, mock surrender. "Hey, just making conversation." "You have 2 weeks," I said, turning to Damien. "I don't care where you go, but he's not staying. You bring him back, and you're both out." Damien scoffed. "You think you can just control who I see? I think I own the roof you're sleeping under?" I said. "And I have no issue pulling it out from under you." I walked out before the shouting could start, slammed the door behind me, and didn't stop moving until I was in my car. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw a punch. But make no mistake, they heard me loud and clear. It started with a text from a coworker. "Hey man, you okay? Saw something weird on Facebook. By lunchtime it was in my inbox. Screenshots. A long, rambling post from Damien, complete with old photos and just enough truth to make the lies sting. He painted himself as the struggling artist abandoned by a heartless brother. Claimed I'd manipulated our aging parents into signing over the deed, accused me of threatening eviction as revenge. He used phrases like financial elder abuse and toxic sibling power plays. I didn't care about the drama. My reputation could survive that noise, but buried in the second paragraph was the line that made my chest lock up. My nephew doesn't even know what kind of man is raising him. Luca saw it at school the next day. Some kid showed it to him on a phone during recess. When I picked him up, he got in the car quiet, staring out the window. "Is Uncle Damien mad at you?" he asked finally. I gripped the steering wheel. "Yeah, bud. He is. Did you do something bad?" "No," I said, "but he's trying to make people think I did." We drove in silence the rest of the way. That night I called my lawyer. By morning I had eviction papers in one hand and a cease and desist in the other. I drove straight to the house. Damien answered in a tank top and boxer shorts. Troy wasn't far behind, smirking like this was some kind of game. I didn't say a word, just held out the papers. "You've got 72 hours, I said. After that, it goes to court." Troy rolled his eyes. "You think you can scare us with paperwork?" I turned to Damien. "Keep my name out of your mouth. Keep my sons out of your posts. This is your only warning." For once, Damien didn't have a comeback. He looked at the papers, then at me. There was no anger in his face, just something smaller, like he finally realized the leash was gone and no one was holding the door open for him anymore. I walked away without looking back. No yelling, no threats, just the sound of their world starting to come apart. He showed up outside my office building like a stray that finally ran out of alleyways. Same hoodie, but thinner now, like life had been squeezing the weight out of him. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there on the sidewalk until I noticed him through the glass and came out. "I'm not here to fight," Damien said, voice low. "You're not here at all," I said. "Not unless you've got something to say that's worth my time." He nodded, eyes on the pavement. "Troy's gone. Took my cards, ran up the balances. I'm sleeping at a buddy's place. Can't get work. No one will touch me after the Facebook mess." I waited. "I need a job," he said finally. "Anything. Just help me get back on my feet." There was no arrogance left in him, no smirk, just desperation sitting heavy in his throat. If it had come from anyone else, I might have felt sorry. I thought about Luca, about the look on his face when he asked if I was a bad man, about the apology I never got from Damien, the years he pretended I didn't exist unless he needed something. "I know someone at a firm in Mechanicsville," I said. "Small IT contractor. They're hiring entry-level help desk." Damien blinked. "Seriously, it pays minimum. It's contract work, no benefits, but it's a start." He nodded too fast. "I'll take it. I'll take anything. I'll give them your name. That's it. You blow it, it doesn't come back to me." "I won't," he said. "I swear." I started to turn, then paused. "You delete every post, every picture of Luca, every word about my name, my job, my family. You clear the digital mess you made, or the referral disappears." "I already started taking it down," he mumbled. "I'll finish tonight." I walked back inside, left him standing there like he'd been washed out by the rain. I didn't feel better, just clean, like I'd finally drawn the line thick enough for even him to see. 3 days later I got a text from the firm. He showed up. On time. Said thank you. Seems like he wants to work. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete the message either. I stopped by the house on a quiet Sunday. Just a routine check-in. The lawn was mowed, the porch swept, and for once the front door was closed properly. My mother greeted me with a cautious smile. My father gave me a slow nod from the recliner, remote in hand, like time had folded back, and we were pretending everything was fine again. We made small talk over lukewarm coffee. Luca played with his tablet in the corner, headphones on, oblivious, or pretending to be. Eventually, the conversation shifted. Jonas. My mother started smoothing the edge of a napkin. We were wondering if there's any flexibility on the payment schedule. Just a little breathing room, maybe? No, I said, calm but final. The deal is the deal. She opened her mouth, then closed it. My father didn't speak. He didn't have to. They both knew what they'd agreed to. They just hoped time and guilt might soften the terms. They were wrong. I'm not the one who put you in this position, I added. I just gave you a way to stay out of worse. I didn't wait for a response. I stood nodded to both of them and called for Luca. We left without drama, which was its own kind of victory. That night back home, Luca pulled me into the living room. He'd spent the afternoon building again his latest Lego project spread out across the coffee table. A miniature version of the Norfolk house, blocky and colorful, but unmistakable. He pointed to one side. I made a room for you and me, he said, and one for Grandpa and Grandma. Then he paused, held up another piece. Should I build a room for Uncle Damien? I looked at the little plastic house, then at my son. His eyes were wide, waiting innocent. I smiled. No need, I said gently. Some people don't get to stay in the story. He nodded, then went back to building, humming under his breath. I watched him work small hands, piecing things together one brick at a time, building something sturdy from scraps. He called me a freeloader. Now he's just a tenant. That's not revenge. That's clarity.